Call it karma, call it sin, a mother's love, an awkward fling, a game of chess, a blade of grass, a circle's curve, a ball of string. Who built the wall that walls me in?
Landmass. I thought this was really intriguing. I loved the spoken poem at the beginning. I loved that kind of gave you, like, almost kind of grounded you, gave you context, but really was something that they kind of came back to and reinforced, but reinforced in almost unconventional ways, because they reinforced it, some with imagery, which I think does help a little bit in a situation like this, but then also like with the music that they were creating, with the sounds that they were producing, which were so phenomenal and so mind-blowing, but also each of those sounds, each section of the music, as they kind of focused on different aspects, roots, sprouts, you know, birds, things like that, like as you kind of grow with the music in the beginning was so primal and so kind of rooted and grounded and kind of chaotic and dark, and it had a lot of depth to it. And then as you kind of grow with the film and as you grow through these kind of different levels, they introduce a lot more lightness and they introduce a lot more wind with the type, which sounds weird, but when listening to it, the types of sounds that they were creating, it did bring a lot of lightness to it, and it brought a lot of air to it, which I thought was really, really fantastic and so beautiful, and just goes to show how emotional music can make us, but especially when you pair that with visuals as well, and you keep revisiting the same kind of core concepts that you presented with the spoken poem at the beginning, and you add in the other layer of having the additional poems throughout as well. When you kind of layer that all together, you get such a beautiful, primal, authentic experience. And to be in the, like, be an audience member watching that and just kind of letting it not just happen to you, but develop within you, and you are watching it develop throughout the song, throughout the experience, I thought was really, really beautiful. And it just kind of goes to show you how moving artistry can be, because I think that's what, if I had to pick one word that kind of embodied this film to me, it would be artistry. And it was really incredible to watch.
Landmass is a long-form poetic series of vignettes. It is a musical experience. It is composed with such intention. They have poems that resurface certain words, that pop up over and over again. As a poet, you really want people to focus on the words that the poet has written. And I think this was done in such a way that it still has the capability to engage the viewer in a sensory experience, despite it being not the typical visual poetry experience that you would expect, and not necessarily the same spoken word experience either. You're actually quite disconnected. You only hear the poet or narrator's voice in this case. You are not necessarily in the know if whether or not the poet is the speaker themselves. And within this piece, you get this experimental play with the art form in itself, from not only the words being read line for line, but the double exposure between the different visuals at play, whether it's the lightly matching with the double exposure of the birds, double exposure, exposure on exposure with the nature, all of these different layers, add on a different definition of the overall art form. And there's a choir, there's a conductor bringing in the movement of the sounds, the acapellas, the people's voices. And so it really develops from this, moment where you're hearing the birds chirp to this very intimate people coming together and learning the way to use their movement and sound to create an experience for a poetic experience for someone to witness is quite beautiful.
This film was called Landmass. This piece was a feast for the eyes and ears. From the mesmerizing voice speaking the rich poetry to the many different chapters of imagery, I was completely transported with this one. The camera work was simply brilliant. I love the superimposed imagery of nature and close-ups of so many textures. The vocal team was incredible, able to conjure up all sorts of mysterious creatures and moods in each section. The titles before and after the sections were so useful to get into the various themes. It was awesome to see and hear the vocal artists recording near the end of the piece. Such talented singers. Well done.